I never fought at casino. I arrived months later, when the rubble had been cleared just enough for maps and medals. But I heard this story from a man who was there, a signals corporal I shared a tent with during the push north. He didn't drink when he told it. That's the part that stuck with me. He said that in 1944, on the casino front, men lived by rules older than any field manual. And the most important one was simple. If something that should be silent still makes noise, you do not follow it. Silence means survival. Noise means intention. According to him, that rule failed the week after the Abbey of Monte Cassino was bombed into a broken crown of stone. The bell rang on the night Lieutenant Antonio Rinaldi decided not to return to a crypt for a wounded man calling from the dark. Or at least, that's how the story was told. What the men agreed on was the sound. They all described it the same way. It didn't echo. It didn't drift. It moved, measured, heavy, as if it had weight. And with every iron step that carried it closer, Rinaldi's omission began to take shape. The assignment itself was routine on paper and lethal in reality. A composite Allied infantry element was ordered to probe the lower slopes of the hill, cross a ruined olive grove, confirm whether a narrow passage between collapsed walls could still support movement, and withdraw before dawn. Rinaldi was attached as a liaison, not the commander, which made his influence quieter and, according to the corporal, more dangerous. The ground was winter mud mixed with powdered masonry. Broken statues lay face down in the snow. The monastery dominated everything, even in ruin. Radios crackled. Men hurried because artillery always returns to places it has already hurt. Local civilians had spoken before the bombardment. Flat voices, no drama. They talked about a bell that rang without hands when the dead beneath the abbey were disturbed. Rinaldi heard them. He filed it away with other things that complicated orders. On the first night, as the patrol skirted the base of the hill, a rifleman slipped near a half-buried stone opening at the rock face. An old crypt access reopened by bombs. His lamp dropped into the dark. Blood spread on the snow. He called out, not screaming, certain someone would come. The corporal said. Rinaldi checked his watch, checked the route, checked the time they had before dawn. Then he gave the order to move on. Clean, efficient, irreversible. The calling stopped. Then the bell struck once. It wasn't loud. It wasn't meant for the valley. One deliberate blow, metal on metal, deep enough to be felt through boots. The men froze. Someone laughed too quickly. Rinaldi said nothing. They moved out before the sound could repeat. When it did, it was closer. No longer from the ruined tower, but lower on the slope, descending. By the second night, a pattern had formed at least. That's how the men described it later. The bell always struck once. Always after complete silence, when even distant guns paused to reload. Always at the same interval, measured like footsteps. It wasn't wind. It wasn't echo. The sound didn't scatter. It navigated. The corporal said. Rinaldi noticed something else. When men stared at the crypt opening, the bell answered. When they looked away, it paused. Rinaldi ordered the opening covered with tarpaulin and rubble. He ordered no one to mention the wounded man again. Small losses followed. A canteen vanished and litter stood upright at the foot of a stairway that ended in open air. Bootprints appeared in fresh snow and stopped abruptly. The radio hissed, and beneath the static ran a low metallic rhythm that matched the bell's timing exactly. A corporal followed the sound despite orders. They found him near the sealed entrance. No wounds, no struggle. His fingers were shattered backward, as if he'd tried to hold on to something that didn't slow. By the third night, denial became work instead of instinct. The bell sounded from inside the monastery ruins, and then answered from below, as if 2 points were testing distance. Some men said they saw a shape between columns when they refused to look straight at it. Tall, rigid, iron scraping on stone. It didn't rush, it didn't threaten, it waited. One sentry never reported in. His position was sealed by fallen stone that hadn't been there hours earlier. The radio transmitted breathing that didn't belong to anyone present. Slow, strained, The corporal admitted this part quietly. The breathing sounded like the wounded man, reduced to pattern. The bell struck once, directly beneath their feet. By the fourth night, the sound followed Rinaldi. When he stepped away, it faded. When he returned, it resumed, patient, exact. At the crypt entrance, rubble shifted again, revealing a narrow gap. From inside came the scrape of iron shoes against stone. No demand, no explanation, just approach. Rinaldi ordered charges placed. The opening was collapsed properly, buried until it was indistinguishable from the hillside. During the blast, the bell struck once, close enough to vibrate bone. When the dust settled, the sound stopped. No one celebrated. Official reports later mentioned unstable ruins, stress, misheard sounds. Missing men were attributed to terrain and confusion. Casino remained the objective. The route was marked impassable and forgotten. Rinaldi signed where indicated. Years later, during restoration work, a single strike was reported underground after hours. Metal on metal, isolated, precise, logged as a structural anomaly. No one followed it. I never heard the bell myself, but I did walk that valley, and there are places where sound carries strangely, even when nothing is moving. The man who told me this said the bell never rang to summon the dead. It rang to count what was left unanswered.